Hello dosto, and a very warm welcome back to part 5 of our CA Made Easy Explainer series. We are diving right back into chapter 6 of the Companies Act 2013. Now, if you've been following along with our previous sessions, you know we've been breaking down complex company law into bite-sized, totally logical pieces. Today, we are tackling something incredibly important for your exams: corporate structures. I know the legal jargon can seem a bit intimidating at first, but honestly, we are going to look at it through a very simple, relatable lens today. बिल्कुल एक जॉइंट फैमिली की तरह, जहां पेरेंट्स हैं, बच्चे हैं और ऑफ कोर्स कजिन्स हैं. अगर हम इन कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रक्चर्स को एक फैमिली ट्री की तरह समझें, तो ये सारे लीगल रिलेशनशिप्स बहुत ही आसान हो जाएंगे. So, grab a pen, open up those notes, and let's get straight into it.
Okay, let's dive into our game plan for today. We have a visual syllabus that's going to clear up all these ICII exam concepts for you. We'll be covering 4 main areas. Number 1, meet the parent, which is the holding company. Number 2, the children, our subsidiary companies. Number 3, the cousin, the associate company. And finally, number 4, access to capital, where we'll break down listed versus unlisted companies.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, let's meet the parent, the holding company.
Now, the absolute most important thing to understand right from the get-go is that holding and subsidiary are entirely relative terms. They literally don't exist without each other. According to Section 246 of the Companies Act 2013, a holding company in relation to one or more other companies simply means a company of which such companies are subsidiary companies. I know, the legal language sounds completely circular, right? Basically, कानून ये कहता है कि अगर आपके पास एक subsidiary है, तो congratulations, आप एक holding company है. It really is that simple. Your entire identity as a holding company is based purely on the fact that you hold subsidiaries below you in that family tree. And just a quick note for your exams, for the purposes of this clause, remember that the expression company also includes any body corporate.
Moving right along to Section 2. We've met the parent, now it's time to meet the children, the subsidiary companies.
So, now that we know what a parent company is, we naturally have to ask, what makes a child? How does the law actually decide that Company B is legally the child of Company A? Well, Section 287 steps in and gives us 2 very distinct ways a parent company can establish control over a subsidiary. Condition 1 is that it controls the composition of the board of directors. Condition 2 is that it exercises or controls more than 1/2 of the total voting power. And remember, this voting power control can be entirely on its own or together with one or more of its other subsidiary companies. So the absolutely crucial point for your ICAI exams is this. This is an or condition. दोनों में से कोई एक criteria meet होना चाहिए. You do not need both. If you satisfy even one of these 2 criteria, boom, a holding subsidiary relationship is instantly created.
Let's look a little closer at that first condition, controlling the composition of the board of directors. What does this legal phrase really mean in the real world? In everyday business language, it translates to one thing: absolute power. Parent company के पास independent power है कि वो majority directors को कभी भी hire या fire कर सकें. और सबसे बड़ी बात, बिना किसी से पूछे. They do not need to consult other shareholders. If they have the unilateral authority to appoint or remove all or even just a majority of the directors, the law simply says, look, you control the board, therefore you control the company. It is officially your subsidiary.
Now, what's really interesting about this next point is the math trap ICI absolutely loves to set for you. So please pay close attention here. Let's look at the second condition, controlling more than 1/2 of the total voting power. Keep in mind, total voting power basically means equity share capital. The law explicitly says more than 1/2, it does not say 50% or more. अगर कंपनी A के पास exact 50% voting power है, what happens? वो subsidiary नहीं है दोस्तों. Exact 50% is a mathematical tie, it is not control. You need strictly more than 50%. Even 50.1% works perfectly fine, but exact 50% does not make a subsidiary company. Do not let the exam trick you on that tiny detail.
Alright, let's test your conceptual clarity with a classic chain scenario. ये exams में आना लगभग पक्का है. Imagine this situation. Company B is a subsidiary of Company A. So, A is the parent and B is the child. Now, a new company, Company C, comes along, and Company C is a subsidiary of Company B. So, B is now the parent of C. The big question is, what is the exact legal relationship between Company C all the way down there and Company A at the very top?
And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of a deemed subsidiary. In the eyes of the law, Company C is legally considered a deemed subsidiary of Company A. Matlab law ye automatically subsidiary मान लेगा. If A is the grandparent and C is the grandchild, the grandparent still calls the shots. The Companies Act states that a company shall be deemed to be a subsidiary company of the holding company, even if the control is exercised indirectly through another subsidiary company. The layers just build on each other, and the ultimate control flows all the way up to the top of the chain.
Before we leave the topic of subsidiaries entirely, there is a very strict, very important legal provision from Section 271 that you absolutely must know. What happens if a giant public company buys out a small private company? Well, the law says that a private company, which is a subsidiary of a public company, shall be deemed to be a public company for the purposes of this act. And here is the exam kicker, the part you have to remember. ये तब भी अप्लाई होता है जब सब्सिडियरी अपने आर्टिकल्स ऑफ एसोसिएशन में खुद को लगातार प्राइवेट कहती रहे. कानून पेपरवर्क के पार देखता है. If your parent is public, you are deemed public. This beautifully prevents large public companies from hiding public funds inside secretive private shell companies.
Okay, Section 3, the cousin. Let's talk about the associate company.
All right, so we've thoroughly covered the parents and the children. Let's shift our focus to the cousins of the corporate family. These are companies that sit at the exact same dinner table, but they are not fully controlled by the parent. Section 2.6 defines an associate company as a company in which that other company has a significant influence, but importantly, which is not a subsidiary company. So you don't have absolute control, but you definitely have significant influence. A joint venture भी इसी कैटेगरी में आता है. आप बोर्ड को जब चाहे निकाल नहीं सकते, but business decisions में आपका दबदबा जरूर है. The natural question you should be asking now is, how does the law actually measure this significant influence?
Remember this specific threshold for the exam. The law defines significant influence very clearly. It means control of at least 20% of the total voting power, or control of or participation in business decisions under an agreement. So, if you hit that 20% mark of voting power, but you stay at 50% or below, you are firmly in the associate company zone. You are officially a corporate cousin. Also, keep in mind that a joint venture, where parties have joint control and rights to the net assets of an arrangement, automatically falls into this associate category.
Let's apply this to a practical business scenario straight from our notes. एक case study देखते हैं कि एग्जाम्स में ये कैसे टेस्ट होगा. Imagine ABC Limited has a total paid-up equity share capital of 100 crores. During the financial year, ABC allots equity shares with voting rights worth 15 crores to XYZ Limited. Based purely on these numbers, would ABC Limited and XYZ Limited be called associate companies under the Companies Act 2013?
Let's move to the breakdown and see how this builds. It's simple math, really. The total capital is 100 crores and XYZ's investment is 15 crores. So XYZ के पास exactly 15% voting power है. Now, what was our magic threshold for significant influence? It was at least 20%. Since 15 is obviously less than a 20% threshold, they are absolutely not associate companies. Exam में ये simple calculation जरूर दिखाना full marks के लिए. It's a tiny step, but it's absolutely crucial for demonstrating your conceptual clarity to the examiner.
Finally, Section 4, Access to Capital. We're looking at listed versus unlisted companies.
So we are moving away from the family tree of control now, and we're looking at how companies are classified based purely on their access to public capital markets. As per Section 252, a listed company is simply a company which has any of its securities listed on any recognized stock exchange. Our source notes use a really great real-world example, Scan Steel Rods Limited. They are a public limited company whose shares are listed on the stock exchange in Kolkata. Why are they called listed? क्योंकि company or stock exchange ने एक formal listing agreement sign किया है, which legally allows the trading of their shares in the capital market. An unlisted company, on the other hand, is exactly what it sounds like. It's just any company other than a listed company. Their shares are not traded publicly on a recognized exchange.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From holding companies calling the shots to deemed public subsidiaries, right down to the 20% rule for our corporate cousins, the associates. But I want to leave you with a rather provocative question to ponder before your next study session. We saw how a holding company can control a subsidiary, which controls another subsidiary, creating this massive, endless chain of deemed subsidiaries. If a sprawling holding company can theoretically control unlimited deemed subsidiaries in this manner, how deep can the corporate family tree actually go before the law steps in to cut the branches? Is there a legal limit to these layers to prevent massive corporate fraud? Soche is bar mein. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Apne notes revise karte rahiye. Keep studying.